The president's son, Hunter Biden, in a Delaware courtroom today, joined once again by stepmother, First Lady Jill Biden, for opening statements in his federal firearms case. Prosecutors telling jurors, quote, "No one is above the law," as they allege the younger Biden lied on a federal gun form in 2018, swearing he was not a drug user. Biden has pleaded not guilty. He faces up to 25 years in prison. Lou Shapiro is a criminal defense attorney. He joins us now with more. Lou, good to see you. Thanks for being with us. So if you can really quickly, we just did a little bit, but sort of break down what the crime is here, what this case is all about.
Absolutely. It was good to be back with you, Alex and Marla. What it basically comes down to is two charges. One charge is that when Hunter Biden filled out a form to buy a gun, the question on the form is, do you use drugs? And he wrote no. There's obviously good reason why that question is asked. So one charge is for lying on that form. The second charge is actually for possessing that firearm when he is an addict. So those are the two charges that are standing on the table right now that he is fighting.
So let's dig into that first question. Do you use drugs? And the defense team is basically saying he wasn't using drugs at the time, right? So he wasn't lying. The prosecution says it differently.
Right. So the defense is trying to narrow down the whole case to the jury and say, really all this comes down to is a moment in time, not a time period. So prosecution is trying to broaden that time period where the defense is trying to narrow it down. And it's going to be up to the jury what the intent of that form is. I think the prosecution has a pretty good public policy argument, though, in their closing argument, which is, do you think the form is meant to ask you if you're using that particular day? Or is it meant to be asking you, do you use it in general? Because weapons shouldn't be in the hands of people who are using drugs in an inappropriate way.
Well, and then let's talk about the opening statement for the prosecution today. And they made it very clear that Hunter Biden has done plenty of drugs.
Yeah, and it really was a gift to the prosecution, the fact that Hunter Biden wrote a book about this. And he stated during that time period that we're talking about, he was using drugs. So it's going to be very hard for the defense if the jury accepts the fact that the form is meant to cover a broad period of time. In light of the fact that he wrote that book, which has that time period covered of using drugs, that's going to be a tough one.
So what are we talking about here? Are we talking about actual potential prison time for him?
No, we're not talking about prison time. Here's an individual who has, previous criminal record in this sense. Nobody got hurt. There was no violence used. In fact, if his name wasn't Hunter Biden, we probably wouldn't even be talking about him, or there wouldn't even be a case in that sense. So this is also politically motivated, if you ask most legal analysts. I think worst case is looking at his probation and some community service. But remember who his father is, the president who has the pardon and power. So if you're Hunter Biden, you're sort of in a win-win situation.
Yeah, and then he's got, a tax trial that he's also going to be facing here in Los Angeles in September. And it's interesting that they sort of started with the premise today that no one is above the law. That's what prosecutors are saying about Hunter Biden. But where have we heard that before? Just last week, Donald Trump in his own trial, prosecutors saying no one is above the law when it comes to him. And we have this extraordinary moment, Lou, in the middle of a presidential campaign where one candidate is on trial or multiple trials, and the president's son, the other candidate, on multiple trials.
Yeah, this is something that we're probably never going to see again. And no matter which side you're on, both of these cases definitely have political motivations underlying them. Because in the Trump case, the one that he was just convicted of, most people will tell you in the system that if there is some type of financial misclassification of something in a line item, it's not going to go to a full-blown trial. There's going to be some type of small resolution made, a fine is paid, and everybody moves on. It doesn't turn into 22 witnesses over a 30-week trial. And same thing the Hunter Biden case. It's possession of a firearm, nobody got hurt. It should have gotten to this point. This is really, sadly, the criminal justice system crossing politics in an unhealthy fashion.
Lou Shapiro sharing his perspective with us here tonight. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
You got it.